Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today's lesson is about just grabbing your sketchbooks and pen or pencil, pen or paper, whatever you got, and we're just going to doodle. And because of that, the reason why I'm showing you this today is because all the art lessons out there online, including my own and books you read and going to school, there's stuff that we feel like we have to memorize in order to be good at it. And today I want you to loosen up. I just want you to grab your sketchbooks and doodle along with me, because there's a lot of power in sketching without thinking. All right, because the sketchbooks that we have, they are our diary, and I'm going to say that over and over and over again. We don't owe anybody a wonderful picture. We owe it to ourselves to just get better and just to have fun and enjoy it. And typically, when you enjoy doing something, you keep doing it, and when you keep doing it, you get better at it. All right. I remember a couple lessons ago, a couple videos ago, where I was asking everybody, do you consider drawing as a chore, or do you actually consider it a passion, like something that you enjoy? And I was surprised at how many people commented, and it was one of my community posts too. I was surprised at how many people felt like it was a job, like it was a chore. And I was thinking to myself, drawing is something that is really supposed to be mindless. It doesn't matter how good we are. We could be awful at sketching, but we love doing it. And it's freeing of the mind. It helps us, kind of unwind during the day. It's no different than going to work out, kind of relieve stress, or going for a walk. Drawing is supposed to be that. And if drawing stresses you out, something else is going on. It has nothing to do with drawing. It probably has to deal with wanting to perfect it. And you're not going to get good at drawing if you constantly try to perfect it. The only way to get good at drawing is if you just let your mind be. Just let it be and start putting lines on paper. A couple videos ago I posted how to start sketching if you have never done it before in your entire life. That was your first time ever. And the first thing I had everybody draw was a line. Just a simple line. And that's the start. So if you're drawing for the first time ever, you're tuning into my channel for the first time, you have no idea who I am, I'd at least want you to go grab some paper and start doodling. I think some of the best stories that I hear in my comments and people email me about is they gave up drawing years ago, but then they recently got this kick of motivation and they wanted to start drawing again. And that, I love those kind of stories, because it's almost like they're reigniting this abandoned skill level that they kind of had back in the day, but they never pursued it. And then all of a sudden they stick with it, and the rest is history. It's so much. It happens with musicians. It happens with writers. It doesn't matter. Like, people were just really coming out and going back to their roots, like what made them really happy. So if you're in that boat, let's say you haven't drawn in years, all of a sudden you just want to start drawing again, grab a sketchbook, sit down, let's do it. I have no idea what I'm drawing here. It's some kind of humanoid quadruped. It was probably going to be a werewolf at some point, but I decided to change my mind. Very big hunchback, and there definitely needs to be indication of some fur up there. I'm just keeping my lines really loose. I'm using a standard Bic ultra round stick grip. These things are super cheap. You get it for like under 10 bucks for a pen. Probably like under $5. And I'm just throwing some lines together, making sure the silhouette looks good. Not really caring about messing up. I'm seeing like, okay, the mouth works there. Sometimes the mouth won't work. Let's put some ears on it. I think that would be kind of cool. I just got to make sure it's in perspective though. So I'm looking directly over the sketchbook there. It's probably why my voice sounded a little different. And that's one of the things that I teach about how, in order to keep your perspective in check, you have to sit up straight, good posture, but also so that you can see this entire picture straight on instead of tilting your head or even tilting the sketchbook. Now I'm looking at it straight on, but the camera is placed on the side of my sketchbook, making it look like I'm tilting it, and I'm not. There we go. Just indicating where some muscles are or where they could exist. And you know, when I draw a beast like this and it's looking at us, I almost certainly have to draw that mouth open, so there's going to be some teeth. What kind of teeth? I don't know. Maybe some canines in there, because this creature does look rather mammalian. There we go. Almost like a hairless bear. Those are the horrible looking, by the way, but also really cool. And as I'm drawing along this, I'm going to tell you all my techniques, what I'm doing, but also I'm just blabbing. So hopefully you don't mind that. All right, so the other thing that I do when I'm drawing like this, and maybe there's a part of the anatomy where I'm really not sure what's going on. So right this second, I don't have reference to look at. It's not up on my computer screen next to me. So I'm just going to leave certain areas that I'm not quite confident about, and I'm just going to leave it blank, or maybe put some scribbles over. Because there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is just a thumbnail sketch. This isn't anything final. I don't have to have anything nailed down for the modeling department or whatever. It's just me playing around with my sketchbook just to see what can come of it. So back to therapy, back to drawing to relieve stress and enjoying it. If you find yourself not getting better as you draw, that's okay, because not everything is going to come really, really quickly for us. Like for us, when we learn something, some people can pick it up really quickly, others it'll take time. And it can also click when you least expect it. Like you'll be drawing and then all of a sudden, boom, you did something right. But then what happens? You're not sure about how you did that thing, so then you can't duplicate it. That's where the practice comes in. It just comes to repetition. And you're not ready yet when you have the subject matter in mind, but you're too worried about execution. It's kind of like figure drawing. If you're confident about the figure, then the only thing you have to worry about is the rendering part, getting everything done. But if your anatomy is messed up, or you don't really know what's going on, you haven't studied enough of it, then it's going to be much more difficult to actually finish the body drawing. All right, so anytime I draw an open mouth, I just have to make sure that the teeth are going to close correctly. Now you see here, nothing fancy is happening with the mouth. It's more of just indicating the spots of where the teeth could exist versus drawing every single tooth. I don't need to do that. I just want to draw a big enough mouth to where it looks menacing but also strong enough. There we go. And that's something else that I teach in creature design is proportions. So when you draw the head for your creature, look at the neck that is attached to the head and ask yourself, does that neck look strong enough to hold that head? If so, great. Hurdle number 1 passed. The second one is what the neck is attached to. Now, I love looking at African wildlife, especially wild dogs and hyenas, because when I'm doing something scary like a four-legged creature and it has a hunchback, I want to make sure that this bulk right here looks like it can have a neck attached to it that big. So everything is in congruence. You definitely want to make sure that everything looks like it belongs with it. So like one of the things that helps me when I do that is the facial details, and I've said this tons of times, facial details, the more you put them in first, the more it can help dictate what's going to happen with the rest of the body. And in doing so, it's going to make everything happening on the body look like it belongs with that face. We don't see elephants walking around with a lion face. You know, we don't see, I mean, that would be crazy looking. We don't see lizards with mice faces. Okay. So it's pretty, it's something we don't think about, but is easily overlooked. So now I have to check my perspective here because I don't think this is right. Okay, I just got to make sure that the eye, there we go. Okay. Because what happens is the head is tilted, so maybe the ear can be tilted. I'll just lift the ear up. If I do some perspective lines going across, I just got to make sure that everything is in line. Because this is pretty parallel, the head is tilted. So as I mentioned before, there's no real hard lesson here. This is just us drawing together, having fun, and basically scribbling. And I just want all of you that might be stressed out to just take a minute, go sit in your favorite chair, put some music on, light a candle, do something like that. If it's nice out, go outside, feel the breeze, and try to draw. One of my favorite places that I have ever drawn are in cafes. And the reason is, I don't know why, but I guess the ambience is the best in cafes. You know, I've drawn in Starbucks before, but I think the mom and pop shops, like the lesser known cafes, maybe that are around town, especially downtowns, those are always fun because people are different. You never know what's going to happen. The food is usually better, and it's just like a really nice atmosphere. And the lighting is, I mean, I guess you could say romantic, but it's more inviting and it's more chill. And Starbucks is good to draw into, but the seating arrangements aren't always as accommodating. So if anybody that works at Starbucks, I'm not talking bad about Starbucks. I like it. Okay, so here you can see, like down here, I'm just indicating maybe where some fur or hair could be growing off the chest. This creature has a pretty thick neck. As you can see, it's a mix between, it's like a hybrid bear and, I don't know, like a warg, if you watch Lord of the Rings. Those creatures were awesome. They reminded me of the Andrewsarchus, if you're familiar with the ancient mammals. You know, it kind of puts me on a little side path right there talking about stuff. The Pleistocene era and the mammalian age after the dinosaurs, man, they don't get enough love. They really don't. We keep thinking and glorified just T-Rex and Stegosaurus and Triceratops, and rightfully so. Those are awesome animals. But those giant mammals that lived, like the terror bird and all of those, oh my gosh, what were those giant warthogs that were 9 feet tall? Like, nobody talks about those, but that would be even more terrifying seeing those. I always like looking at that stuff for reference. And of course the Smilodon, aka, saber-tooth tiger, that's pretty popular. But we don't think about the other stuff. Like I don't remember the name of it, but it dwarfs the ostrich and it looks like an emu. Like, it's just absolutely massive. So if those of you know what I'm talking about, just put it in the comments. All right, I'm getting there. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, trying to talk to you guys, and I don't know how this is going to end up, but I'm thinking to have human-like hands for paws. I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll find out. But again, this is an action pose, so you can see here that what I was talking about before about just drawing where you may and just scribbling it in. And you can always learn about proportions as you do this. And the other thing is, you don't have to go to school to learn about proportions in art, because it's just about what we see visually on a daily basis. And it's kind of like when you see somebody that is trying to draw the human figure and it doesn't look right in the drawing, you could be the worst artist in the world and still know that the drawing doesn't look right. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So you just have to trial and error it, work on the proportions till something clicks. And you'll know when you look at it and you go, you know what, those legs look too small and I can't figure out why. Sometimes it's just knowing the why. You look at your drawings and you're going, something's off, I don't know what it is, somebody please help me. Happens to all of us. Which is why if you're ever working on a portfolio and getting it ready to send into a studio or to a client or whatever, always, always, always have a professional or two look over your portfolio that does the very thing that's in your portfolio. Like if you're a creature designer, have a professional creature designer look at your portfolio before you send it out. Because what that does is it gives an objective eye. And what better objective eye to have on your work than the exact people that will be working alongside of you possibly in a studio. It's always fun. A little nerve-wracking, but it's fun. So you can see like there's no real definition. The one place that I do know I want definition is right in that mouth, like where the blackness of the throat happens right behind the tongue and maybe under those teeth, because that offers nice contrast and it tells us, okay, there's obviously a throat there, but also it adds a little depth among the scribbling. And it's not easy to do, but when you start practicing that, which is why I like the pen, man. Like the pen, my go-to tool is a pencil, of course, but a perk about a pen is that if you draw a bunch of lines together and it looks messy, you can't necessarily go back over that area and outline certain areas darker with a pencil. Because the darker you get with a pencil, usually the graphite starts to shine under the lights and it doesn't look good. But with a pen, you can go in and go, oh, I really want that cheek to show out. So there, and it's immediately darker. It's crazy how that happens. I think I want to point these ears now. Just something different. And maybe give a little bit more indication of a nose. Just sitting right on top there. So it almost looks like a bat, but not quite. We got a mutated bear bat. Bear bat. I like that name. Bear bat. So here, whenever I would shadow, and I'm scribbling with a pen here. Whenever I need to shadow with a pen and I want to keep the details at a minimum, I just scrape the tip of the pen across a certain area in one direction, keeping the strokes very close together, and then I'll just hit it with another direction and not push harder. So this is going to take some finesse. Okay, this is part of ink work that is difficult, because if you have a ballpoint pen and you push too hard, it's done. You can always get darker, you can't get lighter with a pen, so you need to be careful of that. So this is why I start really loosely outside here with the silhouette of the creature before I get into anything that I think needs to be dark, because there's like a fear of messing it up, and we've all had that before. We draw something that we like, and then all of a sudden we don't want to do anything with it because we think we're going to mess it up. Yeah, it's an awful feeling. It never goes away. I just want to say I've been drawing for almost 4 decades. It doesn't go away. We always have that fear of messing an area up, so we just we have to have that self-discipline to stop and think about what we're about to do. Easier said than done, of course. So this face is almost done. I mean, I can keep going. I'll probably add a little bit of indication of some fur. I just want to let everybody know that really appreciate you being here. Got a lot more lessons coming up this summer. For example, a lot more lessons on fur, scales, and something that everybody has been asking me for, and I'm going to do it, and that is hard surface. So I'm going to teach you how to sketch hard surface, how to shade it, how to draw it quickly, and I'm going to be drawing more cars too. Because back in the day, I had some industrial design experience, and that was my schooling. But I also worked as an industrial designer. And I'm just going to show you what I learned while doing it. So I can't wait for that. I know hard surface is that's a tough one. It's a tough one. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Okay, so this thing, in order to, in my opinion, finish this silhouette off, I'm going to give it a tail, and it's just going to wrap around. You see how loose I'm giving this, or I'm doing this. It's not a special tail, but it's just long enough to where the proportions look good. So I have the tail point down a little bit to not be as predictable. That's the other thing, predictability within your art. You want to put in a little bit of chaos. A little bit of chaos goes a long way. Like, for example, toes spreading. Okay, you always want to show toes spreading. If we do the back right here, maybe a claw here, and then a claw kind of bent sideways because of the toe pads, and then maybe one here gripping the ground. So when you do that, it shows realism because there could be weight behind it, and that's another thing that's not forgotten, but it's just not sketched right, and that is action poses and weight distribution. This is something I preach in my creature design workshop. Weight distribution is huge. If you want a 2D animal or character looking like they're alive and breathing and moving in an environment, because that's not easy. Like, let's say you're not that good at atmospheric perspective or shading, but your gestural sketching and your movement, it's going to have to shine through all that, okay? Because you can scribble and still make stuff look good. So you don't have to look at your drawings and go, oh my gosh, I can't post this. It's not a masterpiece. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. Highly rendered images, those really aren't masterpieces. We all do them. Those are masterpieces. Masterpiece work happens with, like, behind closed doors. The sketchbooks that we don't see. You know, it's like with Picasso. His figure drawing was amazing, but then his finished work looked nothing like his sketched figure drawings. All right, we're going to move along here to this back foot. So another trick to show that your creature looks alive and is actually standing and pushing down on the ground is not only how you spread the toes apart and how these toenails are shifted, you know, because of the weight is pushing down on them, and they're not all going to push the same, but also the other foot. Artists tend to make the toes and hands pointed or straight. So, for example, they're all pointing in one direction. That's what makes your creatures look stiff. And you don't want to make it look stiff. So, for example, you can see that this foot out here is pointed towards us. It's not pointed towards the front of the creature. So, its back right leg, those toes should probably be facing somewhere outwards on the other side of the body. So that's really going to help the believability. Like, okay, this thing has to turn its hip a certain way to stand, and you don't want to go overboard because then it's going to look like it has a broken hip, and you don't want that. All right, so here, show it up like this, and then just a hint of that knee come down because this is the belly. We'll just draw the belly darker. All right, so this knee and this whole thigh, it's happening right here, but on the other side of the creature, the knee is bent like this. You can see me draw through it. This is another perk about just thumbnail sketching and drawing through the objects. So I'm just going to take my pen and I'm going to hatch in a little shadow. Very simple. Just a single direction, just lines going down so we know that that leg is in the back. Now the fun part is, what are we going to do with the front hand? Okay, so we have to account for the wrist itself, okay, all of the carpal bones inside this area, okay, that carpal band right there with the tendons underneath. And then, remember what I was saying earlier about a mixture of human fingers and paws. So I need to start thinking about, okay, well maybe because the back paw here has 4 toenails, then there should also be 4 up here. Okay, it's going to have a main middle one, so I want that to be sharp but not razor sharp. And then I'm going to have the finger next to it kind of bent sideways, and then maybe this one bent way out here, so that if the creature is looking directly at us because it caught us in the wild, this whole arm moved. You can see that the shifting of the weight is coming at us. So that means that this is its own anchor leg up front. So if you push and you stop yourself, it's kind of like doing a push-up, and then when you're pushed up already, you extend one of the arms outward and then try to push again. What happens to all the bones in the skin? It starts to roll, okay, or spread, like you need to spread your pinky and your middle fingers and all of that. Same thing happens here, which also adds to the believability. Just something to think about. We're not going to see much of that far one over there. Very thick hands and wrists, but you want to definitely get that little separation in here from, you got your wrist, or I'm sorry, you have your forearm, and then you have your wrist, and then you have your hand. And that's a common mistake within creature design too. So you want to be careful of that. If ever I'm doing anything in pen, I just like to darken the nails and then leave a little bit of the paper tone showing on top of the nail to make it look like it's shining. Because you don't need gouache when you do that. It's just some trickery. Less is more, right? I know it's cliche to say that, but less is more. Okay, the last hand in here, you can't forget that. So remember what I said about how this hand is facing us. So this hand over here, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess you can call them fingers. Okay, so maybe the farthest one over here that's closest to us, that's going to be like the thumb. Okay, just put that in there, and then just do an indication of the shape of the hand. It's going to go off the page a little bit, but it's really going to be more believable when you do that. So I'm just going to hatch in a single direction only on the arm, and I'm going to leave that face alone. So if you want to add some separation within your drawing, just darken up what's in front, okay, so that chin is pretty pronounced and pretty gross looking with matted hair, etc. Okay, so you definitely want to show that off. Alright, so now that we have that, we have ourselves a pretty gnarly looking creature. If you've been drawing along with me, hopefully you had fun doing this. I really appreciate you doing it. I would love to see your work. If you would like to join the Creature Design Workshop Discord, the link is in the description below, and it's also in the pinned comment. People are joining every day. It's a bustling community. You're free to join at any time you want. You don't have to have any prerequisite skill level. Everybody is contributing their doodles during the day. They're showing pictures of their office. Just a lot of stuff. Everybody's helping each other out. The other thing that I want to mention is the Creature Design Workshop. If you want to sign up for that, I run it every single month, and we have new students signing up all the time, producing some really awesome creature sketches. There is no skill level to sign up for that either. If you've never designed creatures in your life but you want to get good at it, there's a foundation that you have to do, and that's what I teach in that. Okay, it's visit the website, which is the link in the description below, along with our Discord link. And you can also get to the website once you're inside the Discord too. So maybe you're still thinking about it, and that's totally fine. I run it every month. The seats are limited though, and they do fill up pretty quickly. So the new session is starting. I have July 2nd on the website, but it's actually July 1st. So that's when the next session will start. So that's the deadline to sign up for it. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until August. There we go. There's a lot of power to be had with scribbling because it indicates where some texture could be without you going all out and just drawing in the texture. Okay, so we have a nice silhouette here, nice hunchback. We have a very basic tail. We got a power stance. Okay, and then a pretty gnarly face. I kept some interpretation open for some eyebrows. Okay, because the brow ridge on this thing is really strong. That would be an awesome looking skull, probably. Be a fun drawing to do. I'm going to darken this right down here. I'm going to darken that tongue too, because maybe it ate something. But do you see the play up on values now? So the tongue is sticking out because the white of the paper behind it was very prominent. And then the chin was blending in with the shading of the right arm. So I darkened the chin, because not only would there be a shadow there anyway, because the whole head is casting a shadow, but it's a good separation. You don't have to show everything. That's the other thing. When you're scribbling like this, and you're just drawing and experimenting and getting comfortable with all the lines, like, you don't have to finish it. You don't have to make everything look perfect or pretty. A lot of times you don't even have to know what you're doing. Okay, this stuff tends to come naturally when you just start scribbling, and then you just get better without thinking about getting better. There we go. So much fun. What should we name it? I have an idea, but I want to hear what you would name this creature in the comments. I get some funny ones too. Like really scientific names, and then other names are like, oh, that's Charles. Like, yeah, I could see it. I can see this being a Charles, but I can also see it being a Luke. I don't know why, but it just looks like a Luke. And if it was a female, not Mary. I can see this being a Samantha. I don't know why. You know, sometimes like faces have names to them without it's just strange how we psychologically see that. We personify everything. Like we'll name our cars, for crying out loud. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this sketch. Just a fun little draw through technique, and you know, with the spheres over here and the hips, and hope you kept it loose. Think about joining the Creature Design Workshop Discord, and let's see all the sketches that you've done. Remember, if you want to sign up for my workshop, sign up on the Discord, or join the Discord first and then DM me so that I know who you are, and then I can give you access to our classroom. You can meet everyone. All right, thanks everybody. I'll see you next time.